Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Anya and I'm a fashion designer, and today I'm sharing something really exciting with you. I'm gonna be designing my own wedding dress. I recently got engaged and I'm really excited. It was a dream come true, but now we decided that we're gonna be eloping in just 7 weeks. So that means I'm on a pretty tight schedule to find that perfect dress. And I have already made some attempts. First, I went the traditional route and I've been online for hours and hours trying to find that perfect dress that I would like and order it. And the first one that I ordered, it got cancelled and it never even arrived. Then I ordered the second one, and the second one arrived with a really bad fabric, really bad construction. It was like see-through. I really didn't like it. It was definitely not the right one. Then I ordered the third and the fourth one, and it was kind of the same story of not really fitting in the right places, not looking the way that they looked on the photo, having really bad quality materials. So I kind of started freaking out, and I was like, well, maybe this is like a sign that maybe we shouldn't get married. But then a friend came to me that I haven't seen for a while, and she told me, well, why aren't you making your own dress? I mean, you're a designer. And it was really weird because that didn't even crossed my mind up until that point. And then I gave it a bit of a thought and I was like, you know what, maybe I could do my own wedding dress. I mean, it would be so special to wear something that I created by myself. It would be exactly what I wanted. So I got down to work, and let's check out the first part of the designing process. Okay, so the first step was to gather inspiration. I knew I wanted something different from traditional wedding gowns that I have been looking at, so I decided to search for ideas that felt a little bit more unconventional. Pinterest is always my go-to place, so that's where I started. I was specifically searching for civil wedding dresses because I had the feeling that they'd give me more unique and modern options, something simple but still special enough to feel bridal, you know? At first, I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted, so I began pinning everything that caught my eye. I downloaded a lot of dresses with clean, minimalistic lines, modern shapes, and some bold details that felt more like me than the traditional lace-heavy designs I've been seeing everywhere else. And as I went deeper into the process, I started noticing a few common themes emerging in my collections of reference. So first, I noticed that I collected a lot of sheer materials that kept coming up. There was something so delicate and eternal about them, and I loved how they could add that subtle texture to an otherwise minimalistic look. Then there were some unique shapes, and I found myself really drawn to the open backs in particular. So many of the dresses that stood out to me had these dynamic yet elegant open backs that added that unexpected but beautiful element to the design. And of course the sleeves. I wasn't sure if I wanted sleeves at first, but the more I thought about it, the more I loved the idea of incorporating them into the design. I liked the balance between the sleeves that could bring the open back dress, giving that bit of a coverage. So from all of these references, as you can see, a vision started to form. All of these pieces were coming together in my mind, and the more I was looking at the mood board, the more I could see the dress starting to take shape. Okay, so once I gathered enough inspiration and built my mood board, it was time to translate those ideas into my own design. I started with a neckline. I really wanted something that felt modern but still timeless. I kept going back and forth between the deep V and square neckline, but eventually I landed on this hybrid of both, a V-ish and squarish neckline that gives a dress a bold, structured look while still being soft and feminine. And I think it's a really beautiful contrast then with the skirt. Next, I worked on the overall silhouette. I really wanted to focus on minimalistic yet elegant shape. I knew from my reference collection that I wanted a form-fitting skirt that hugged my figure but still allowed me to move freely, and I also wanted a small train that would add just the right amount of romanticism without being overwhelming. I really had to keep that in mind since we are eloping and we are getting married in the nature. So it was about finding that balance between beauty and practicality. And then came the sleeves. Since I had an open back and neckline, I really wanted to balance the overall design, so I decided to add the bishop sleeves made from a sheer material. Sheer fabric had become a key feature for my mood board, so I loved how it could add texture and interest without overpowering the minimalistic vibe that I was going for. And the bishop sleeves gave the dress that romantic, almost eternal quality, while the sheer fabric added a hint of softness and contrast to the more structured bodice, as I said before. I also added some little details to make the dress more uniquely mine, so I decided to include small straps on the wrist of the sleeves that could be tied into a bow, adding a playful feminine touch to that overall look. It was very important to me that the dress didn't feel too serious. This small detail brought a sense of youthfulness, and that felt super personal to me, so I absolutely loved it. One of the standout elements was of course the open back, as I said before. I knew from the beginning that I wanted this feature inspired by the reference I kept coming across on Pinterest, so there's something so striking and elegant about an open back that adds a sense of unexpectedness to the design. It's bold, but it still allows the dress to be both minimal and dramatic at the same time. So I designed the open back to flow naturally into the silhouette of the dress that then went into the hidden zipper for a clean, seamless finish. To elevate the look, I added a row of delicate buttons down the back. These buttons are going to be purely decorative and they will not have any type of function at all. And after sketching, I finally landed on the design that felt perfectly for me. After finalizing the sketch, I moved on to making detailed notes, something I always do to ensure I stay organized during the construction phase. For the bishop sleeves, I knew I needed to adjust the pattern to achieve that voluminous puffed shape, and I made a note to open the sleeve pattern, making it wider to create the desired fullness, but also ensuring that the wrist would be tight and structured. I also added a reminder to shorten the shoulder pattern by 1 centimeter at the sleeve seam for a better, more fitted look. The open back also required a special attention. Since I wanted a clean, seamless look, I made sure to note exactly where the hidden zipper should start and stop. I also wrote down the exact point where the train should begin so that the back of the dress should flow beautifully from the waist down, creating a sleek and elegant silhouette without being too overwhelming. Another critical detail was the decorative buttons on the back. Even though they weren't functional, they added that extra touch of sophistication. Finally, I made a note to add small straps on the sleeves, and these would be tied into delicate bows, adding that playful feminine touch to the overall look. With all of these notes, I had a clear guide on how to approach the construction phase. Before moving to paper, I drafted the entire sewing pattern digitally in Procreate. This allows me to visualize the construction and make any adjustments directly on my iPad before cutting onto paper or fabric. I started by drawing the basic pattern pieces, front and back, dress pattern, and the sleeve. These were the fundamental shapes, and having them sketched out first gave me a base to work from. Next, I began marking out the changes with the red lines to represent the pattern modifications. For the bishop sleeve, I made lines across the sleeve pattern to indicate where I would cut and spread the pattern to create that signature puffed shape. These red lines helped me to see exactly where I need to add width and that extra volume. I also added S symbols along the sleeve, which I used to indicate where the fabric would be gathered. So for example, at the wrist. This step ensured that the fullness of the sleeve would be controlled and would gather neatly into the cuff for that dramatic, beautiful effect. Then I moved to the bodice, making the necessary adjustments. I lowered the sleeve opening following the notes from the sketch, and also adjusted the shoulder seam for that better fit. After that, I focused on shaping the neckline. This was an important element as I wanted that very specific shape in the V-ish, squarish neckline, so I carefully drafted that in Procreate. For the back of the dress, I drew the open back shape, making sure it flowed smoothly with the front. Next, I worked on marking the cut and the seam lines that would divide the bodice from the skirt, and I made sure these lines were balanced both on the front and in the back so that they run smoothly and they just flow from one into the other. Ensuring that the proportions were perfect, then I adjusted the length of the dress, of course extending it all the way to the floor to match my vision for that elegant minimalistic silhouette. Finally, I drafted the train. I carefully sketched out where the train would begin and how it would extend from the back of the dress, giving it a soft, sweeping curve that would add just the right amount of drama. By digitally constructing the entire pattern in Procreate first, I could visualize how everything would come together and make any adjustments before moving to paper. This digital step gives me a clean roadmap for how the actual sewing pattern would work, and this is also the stage where I can detect any type of mistake very early before any major catastrophe is being made. And there you have it, the design is complete, the sketch is done with all the notes and the sketch for the sewing pattern, so I'm really excited to get to the next stage where I will actually be designing the prototype, because I think it's a very important, crucial part of the process so that I can really make sure that the dress is gonna look exactly as I want it and I didn't make any mistakes in the patterns before I cut into the real fabric and not make any huge mistakes. This process has been very personal and very rewarding, and I am so excited up until this point that I decided to do it like this, and I really hope that the dress turns out the way that I wanted and that I have that very fulfilling experience at the end of this process. So if you're excited about the dress taking shape, you can subscribe and like this video and follow along for this journey, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!